Now that each of you has a flash draft, a rough draft of your narrative story, we're going to take a few days each day to focus on something to make our writing better, to improve it. And so today we're going to focus on the idea of show, don't tell. We're not going to just tell our story, but we're going to try to show the reader exactly what we see. We're trying to have this reader sit right next to us and look through our own eyes and see what is happening in our story. So to do that, let's look at some examples. You could write, "It was a beautiful fall day." Okay, that's pretty simple, pretty boring, like there's not much to that with detail. So look at the difference here on the bottom. "It was a beautiful fall day. The dry fall leaves crunched under my feet as the cool, crisp wind blew through my hair. I could smell the pumpkin pie cooling from the oven and apple cider calling my name." So obviously you can see there that there are some senses involved. And so you're like, wow, okay, well, I can't write like that. All you're doing is finding some spots where you can stop and elaborate to give more details. And so the crunching of the leaves when you step on there, the feeling, what you feel, the cool, crisp air, like the breeze, smell, the smell of pumpkin pie. Really think about your senses and go down the checklist and say, are any of my senses here senses that I could experience in my story? And if so, put them in and describe it for the person reading, your audience. Here's another example. "We had pizza at her party that was really good." Okay, so you told, that's telling about your story, the details. So now let's stop and elaborate and try to get the reader to be part of that story, exactly what you were experiencing. Instead of just, "We had pizza at our party that was really good," let's try this. "Steam rising up off the melted cheese made my mouth water. The first bite, my teeth sinking into the cheese, through the tomato sauce and into the moist crust, made me chew and swallow rapidly. Even the cheese and tomato sauce sticking to my fingertips begged me to have more." So once again, you can't write your whole story like this just because really we don't need to elaborate every single spot, but you're going to pick and choose details here, and this is just what you do. You take something and say, okay, I can explain my senses here. I'm tasting the pizza. We had pizza and it was really good. I'm going to take a moment and really describe how good it is by thinking about any possible detail that I can elaborate here. Okay? And so once again, there's an example of just how much this reader is reading, just how much they enjoyed the pizza. "After you took my new game, I was angry." All right. So here's the deal. You definitely want to have it where you can experience that feeling. Okay. So look at the example here down at the bottom. Instead of just, "I was angry." "Sitting at my desk, my jaw tightened. My eyes flashed heat waves at him. My face was beet red. The words erupted from my mouth. 'I want to talk to you after class.' The final hiss in my voice warned him about his feelings." And so here's the deal. Once again, I really want you to focus on feelings in your story and find one or two places where you can give lots of elaboration, lots of details about what is happening here in your story. "It was the day before the race. I was so nervous." Okay, I know many of you have a story where you have feelings about how you're nervous and you have to show some courage or be brave. Look at this. Instead of, "I was so nervous. Tomorrow was the race. Sweat trickled down my face. My stomach tightened into a hard knot. I paced anxiously back and forth, biting my nails with anxiety." Okay, so you can experience this. You didn't have to be there, but you know what it's like for sweat to trickle down your face, for your stomach to tighten into a hard knot, pacing back and forth, biting your nails like that. Even in your story, if you don't have those things that really happened, you have permission to kind of elaborate and really take some poetic license. Take it to where, you could say, I was nervous. Well, stretch it out and add some details. And maybe it wasn't exactly how it was that you were experiencing it, but you can elaborate and exaggerate a little bit to where you are giving some extra details that maybe didn't happen exactly like that. You might not have had sweat trickle down your face. You might not have been pacing back and forth and biting your nails, but we know what that's like when somebody is feeling being anxious. And so those are techniques to use. Okay, I'm going to skip over these and look at one more example here. We went to the beach for vacation. We did a lot of really fun things there. We jumped in the ocean, saw a few crabs, and made sandcastles all day. We all got sunburned. Okay, so here's the deal. If this is your story, this is kind of the heart of the story here for this writer. This is the part where they're talking about the beach. And yes, we got sunburn. That's an important part here. And we can talk later on in the story about the consequences of that. But really, these details, they flew right by. Okay, we jumped in the ocean, saw a bunch of crabs, made sandcastles, got sunburned. There's a lot there to unpack. So hopefully you have a story that you zoomed into the most important part. And this is now where you really don't have a long story, hopefully. And if you do, you're going to have to cut it. Really, you've trimmed it down to just the main important parts. Really, you got to the good part of the story. And now why we're really shortening it is because we're going to find a few spots to really stretch it out and elaborate. So how would you elaborate this? Let's look at the example here. I wouldn't say so boring, but it's pretty simple. As far as fifth grade writing, we'd expect more. So here's how you would stretch it out. Last summer, my family went to the beach. One day, while on the beach, I discovered a clever little crab. I got on my knees and looked really closely at him. His little black eyes were sitting on the top of his head. He looked right at me. He looked like a soldier with his armor-like body. His reddish shell was as bright as a fire engine, and as he scurried quickly back to the water's edge, you could hear the click, click, click of his claws guiding him to his home deep below to the bottom of the ocean. So listen up, guys. I don't need you to be amazing writers. In fact, some of this, I don't even think I could pull this off as a writer. But these are examples of how you take one simple thing, these details about the vacation and about being at the ocean and the beach, and stretch it out. Focus on details to where your reader can see what you saw. Focus on the senses. Okay, click, 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 the claws here. Okay, that is something where if you can just ask yourself, okay, what did I see? What did I taste? What did I touch? What did I smell? Is there anything here that I can tell the reader that goes with the senses? The other thing that I want to mention here is you have several pieces of figurative language here. He looked like a soldier, comparing the crab to a soldier with the armor, okay, on the body. The reddish shell was bright as a fire engine. Okay, once again, comparing this red shell to a fire engine, a bright red fire engine. If you can add some of those details using figurative language, comparing something to something else using like or as, that's the easiest kind of simile. That would be perfect. So wherever you wrote your story, hopefully you have in your writer's notebook a space next to it, the next page side by side, where you can add some of these details. You don't have to do it everywhere. Pick and choose. Maybe today find 2 or 3 spots where you can stop and stretch it out and elaborate. I can't wait to hear what you did. Hopefully you can find these spots and show the reader, not just tell the reader what happened. All right? Good luck.